Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about 3 games that are coming up and coming up quickly that I think if you're a Destiny gamer, you know, we've moved to this episodic sort of a model and you've really gotten down with Destiny in the past, but you're just not sure if that's where you're going to be spending your time in the months to come. I totally get it. We have to wait until October to get the next episode. We've got some time to kill, and then even after that, episodes have downtime, just the way that it is. So where are we going to go? What are we going to play? What might scratch your itch? Well, I've got 3 games I think every Destiny lover is going to enjoy, and they're coming up very, very soon. In fact, the first one on the list comes out next week. So Thursday next week, we have the pre-order sort of early access goes live for Space Marine 2. And then the week after that, shortly after, you have the full launch. So what is Space Marine? Maybe you're unfamiliar with it. You know, what can you expect from a game like that? What's it like? What are you actually going to be doing? What world is it connected to? Well, it's part of the whole like Warhammer world, and that world is very rich in lore. There's like millions of people who are in love with Warhammer. There are like novels this thick of just lore that you could probably go down the street to Barnes & Noble and pick up right now if you were interested in checking it out. But there's a lot going on there, and Space Marine 2 is a sort of continuation of the story of the Warhammer world. So what are you going to be doing in Space Marine 2? So basically, if you like the Destiny sort of PvE vibe, there is going to be a PvP element to Space Marine 2, but primarily, if you like the Destiny PvE vibe, you like doing strikes and raids and dungeons and things like that, you like the cooperative play, you like building a character and customizing the way that they look, and the classes that you're playing, and then leveling up your weapon affinities and things like that, you can really tailor make your Space Marine to behave the way that you really, really want them to and make them stand out in the pack. So this is kind of Doom-esque, and it is third person. I know some people don't like the whole third person vibe, and I totally understand that. It has a lot of Gears of War vibes too, in the sense that there's going to be a lot of enemies on screen, and that's really like one of the primary selling points of this game, is that they are bragging about the way that they've refined their technology so that they can render hundreds of enemies in real time, and the scale of these battlefields is insane. The skyboxes are huge, the environments are large, and you can see it's not like a Destiny strike where you're just progressing from room into room into room. It's more like you can see the battlefield laid out ahead of you. And so you're looking and you're like, 20 minutes from now, I'm going to be over there where I see this giant battle going down, and it's real enemies that are really being rendered, you know, hundreds of yards away from you, 1,000 yards away from you, and it's just like this really immersive, cool battle sim. So your classes, I think there's 6 different classes. You've got like the tactical, you've got the Vanguard that can sort of grapple in and do big melee damage, sort of be the first one in. You've got the Bulwark, which is about big shields and defending your teammates. You've got the Sniper, which is more about being camo and playing on the edges and picking off high priority targets so that your buddies can focus on ad control. There's the Heavy, which is, I mean, what it sounds like, soak up aggro, do big radial damage with large weapons, things like that. It is bloody, all right? So this is not something you're like, hey, I like to play Destiny with my 6-year-old and we have a good time doing it and smacking around some Vex robots. This one is going to be a little bit more on the bloody side because you're fighting these aliens called Tyranids, and when you cut into them with your chainsaw sword, stuff comes out of them. So just be aware of that as well. There's going to be a main campaign that you can progress through by yourself. You can have sort of bot-controlled companions that will be with you on the battlefield as well, and you can customize, you know, what their classes are going to be. But there's also a cooperative element. There are these things called operations. They're sort of like strikes in Destiny, but beefed up. They're longer. You're looking at anywhere between 20 to 30-minute operations, and you can queue with buddies or matchmake and have, you know, your full party that's representing multiple different classes, chewing through enemies together and all sort of playing your roles. And that's something that I wish Destiny did more of. Like with Destiny, you pick your class, but your class doesn't really have its own sense of like core identity all the time. Like if you're ad control, you could be a hunter, a titan, a warlock. If you want to be single target damage, you can be a hunter, a titan, or a warlock. If you wanted to provide bonuses and buffs for your team, you could be hunter, warlock, or titan. This game is very much, no, these are the specific classes, and you have the creative freedom to tailor make your class, to level it up, to unlock new perks and abilities along the way. But you are sort of playing a role, and I like that. And I do think that Destiny gamers are going to get down with this game, and it's going to have some staying power too. It's not going to be like a just play the campaign and be done. There's a lot of other content that they have planned. They've got a full roadmap, and you can check that out on their Steam page. If you just go to their Steam page, and then there's like underneath the main video that shows, the trailer, there's like little thumbnails of pictures that you can click on. One of them is their full content roadmap. So if you're interested to see what that entails and where the game's going and what their schedule looks like, you can see that for yourself right now. Moving on to game number 2. In late October, we have the next installment of the Dragon Age series in the form of Dragon Age Veilguard. This is basically fantasy Mass Effect. If you've never played a Dragon Age game, I mean, for me, Origins was incredible. I adored playing through Origins. And Mass Effect, you think of Mass Effect, you've got you're progressing through the world. It's not like a one giant open world. It's more like you're progressing through big open spaces sequentially, and you can backtrack and go unlock things you may have missed for sure. It's very story driven. It's very choice driven. So that adds a lot of replayability to it, because you could go through the game and choose that you're maybe not the morally most sound person in the world, but you may want to play it as a straight shooter. Maybe you want to play it as a warrior, or as a mage, or as a rogue. Maybe you want to be a hybrid of those things. Maybe you want to fall in love with a certain character. You think of Mass Effect, you have all these different romance options. Maybe you get to the end of the game and, certain characters die, certain ones live. You have a romantic relationship with one character and you see a certain ending. Well, now you want to replay the game and make different choices. Maybe you want to see a different ending. Maybe you want to romance a different character. Maybe you want to try a different play style and make different choices. And as you're progressing through this world, the story itself is going to unfold in very different ways based on the choices that you make. It has visceral, real-time combat too. So you may be looking at it and think, oh, is this sort of like a Baldur's Gate thing where it's really just slow-paced, pick what I'm going to do and take my turn and roll the dice? It's not like that at all. It is real-time combat. You can see in some of the gameplay that they've posted, a lot of it has been really like rogue focused that they've shown, but there's everything from casters to warriors to melee oriented people. There's a wide variety of ways you can play the game. But it is real time. You're reacting to enemies' attacks and dodging and getting in there, and you have like a little radial wheel that you can pull up of all your different abilities that you want to use in real time. It sort of slows down the combat as you pull it up and make your selection, and then you perform that maneuver, or you can have them hotkeyed just to do a quick attack one-off without pulling anything up at all. It looks great, and along those lines, in some of the gameplay they've posted, one of the things that really stands out to me is definitely the environments, the skyboxes, the visuals. There's a certain fight that they posted where they're fighting like this, sort of like a specter, sort of a magey ghost boss, which looks cool. And I'm focused on the combat itself, but then I just take a step back and I'm looking at what's going on around, and there's like this torrential storm that's happening in the background, lightning flashing and flickering constantly without dropping frames or looking clunky. It just looks really immersive and beautiful, and I love the fantasy world that they seem to have created with this next installment of the Dragon Age series. So again, that's coming out late October. I highly recommend to keep your eye on it. Check reviews if you're ever on the fence about what you're going to buy next, what you're going to do next. Always watch, for the first few days that the game comes out. Check the reviews, watch the gameplay, listen to what people are saying, tune into some live streams, and see what your actual gameplay is going to look like before you pull the trigger on anything. But if you're like me and you already know that you love the Dragon Age series, then heck yeah, go ahead, pre-order it, and get involved on day one. The last game I want to talk about comes out very early next year. We're talking about February. So again, we're like, you can go from Space Marine and play that for a while, and then dive into Dragon Age and play that for a while, and then you can dive into the third game coming out in February. It's called Avowed, and it is made by Obsidian. So these are the same people who made games like Fallout New Vegas. If you really got down with Fallout New Vegas, boom. You know that this is a trusted developer that is capable of creating an RPG and a leveling system that you really vibe with. They also made the survival game Grounded, which I loved. I adored Grounded. I thought it was a phenomenal game. Outer Worlds as well. So they have a great track record of making very high quality games. While the last two games that we talked about in this video are third person, this one's actually a first person fantasy shooter caster. I mean, if you want to fire guns, you can fire guns. You want to use melee weapons, use melee weapons. You want to cast spells and throw debuffs across the battlefield, you can do that too. It's a fantasy RPG. It's beautiful. They sort of changed their art style through development, and you know, a lot of people weren't totally vibing with what they were seeing early, but they made a lot of changes. So even like the early gameplay they were posting, it looks nothing like that now. A lot of people got hands-on time with it, including IGN, if you want to see some of the most recent gameplay, and it looks really, really clean. Obviously, I can't steal their gameplay and put it on my channel. That would be kind of a wrong thing to do. So I'm showing you what you see on screen is the gameplay that's been posted by Obsidian themselves. Just know that it has changed a little bit. It looks a little bit more refined, and one of the biggest things that stands out is definitely the way that enemies behave while you're attacking them. So they actually react to when you hit them. Obviously, they recoil, they react to where you hit them, things like that. As you're playing this game, you're going to be leveling up different perks and abilities based on the choices that you make. Your character is going to go down a certain route, whether it's mage, warrior, rogue, etc., your typical fantasy elements, but then there's definitely some hybrid classes that you can play as well. You're also going to be playing with NPC companions, and you can, in combat, in real time, tell them what things you want them to do, whether you want them to be on ad control, whether you want them to target a specific enemy on the battlefield, if you want them to use a specific ability. Maybe you have something that can shatter frozen enemies because it does big damage. So you want your companion to do an ice spell that's going to freeze a bunch of things, and then you come in with a big hammer attack and bonk them and shatter them to pieces, stuff like that. So there's a lot of creative freedom that you have to approach all of these different encounters. This is not a true open world RPG like something like Skyrim or Witcher. It's a zone-based exploration RPG. So think more along the lines of like Borderlands. You know, Borderlands has all these different regions that you're going to go to. Those regions are large, and there's side quests to find. There's different secrets to discover, lots of different hidden bosses and things like that that you can get involved with. But it's not one giant open world. It's these zones that you're going to be going to. Think of things like even KOTOR and Outer Worlds. Borderlands is a great example, too, of what zone-based free roam options look like. So that's what this is going to be like. So there you have it. Those are the 3 games I'm most excited about. Games that I think every Destiny lover should check out. Have these games on your radar. At least give them a chance to impress you and see if that's the kind of thing you want to dive into in the lean times with Destiny that are inevitably coming up. Thanks so much for watching the video. Feel free to leave in the comments section which game looks the best to you of the 3 that I showcased today, and also include any games that you are personally excited about that were not on the list today as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.